Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I thought at the outset the Conservatives were going to go very strong on the economy, but what happened was that Labour more or less matched it and said, well, if you're going to be tough, we can be tough also. And then, of course, the Conservatives wanted to move it onto the NHS and the additional spending, as did the Lib Dems. And each was trying to take the other's kind of high policy position. So what we've ended up with is a very long campaign where different issues have been discussed, but where it's quite difficult for the parties to have given clear differences between them and their rivals. I suppose the exception would have to be UKIP, where it's tried to make great store in terms of its two strong issues, which is immigration and Europe, but no one else has really kind of listened to very much of that debate, and it's failed really to elevate those two issues as central to the entire campaign.
And the top issue, according to the opinion polls, pretty much throughout the campaign has been the National Health Service.
Yes, and of course that was what was so good about the Conservative strategy early on, in terms of, you know, they've called for additional spending on the NHS, and we think that's a good thing. They've been not terribly clear about where that money would come from, in terms of, you know, where the actual funding would be from. But I thought it was quite a clever move early on in the campaign to try and pull the rug, if you like, from underneath Labour, which traditionally has been campaigning hard on that particular issue.
Now, looking at the opinion polls, there are more polls tonight. We won't go into them, but basically they show the same thing. Labour and Conservatives tied somewhere below 35% each. I can't recall a campaign when there's been so little movement in the opinion polls.
It is quite fascinating, isn't it, how little movement there's been, and either with some pollsters the Conservatives are slightly ahead of Labour, with other pollsters it's the other way around, and some are reporting a dead heat, and very, very little movement, you know, 2 or 3 percentage points. The odd poll has seen a leap for one party, but the next poll has tended to bring them back again.
And what about this theory that there are shy voters who don't tell the voters, the pollsters, the truth, whether shy Tories, shy Kippers?
Well, this really dates back to 1992 in particular, where the polls either had Labour slightly ahead or the Conservatives and Labour neck and neck. And of course John Major in 1992 led the national vote by 7 clear percentage points, and the polls were wrong, and everyone remembers that, particularly the pollsters, and therefore, you know, it always goes back down to, if there's no movement in the polls, maybe it's shy Tories.
Now, the first big drama tomorrow night is going to be at 10 o'clock when the polls close. We're going to get the exit poll for all the broadcasters. You're working on that, and that is very different from the day-to-day newspaper polls and should be much more precise.
Well, hopefully it is different because it's not at a national opinion poll. What we do is we sample voters in particular areas, particular polling stations, and what we're trying to do is
find a lot of voters.
About 20,000 it will be, and as they leave the polling station we ask them how they voted, and what we're trying to do is put together a forecast to understand what's happening in the different kinds of areas, and from that generate a national forecast in terms of seats. So it doesn't talk about a national vote share, and it doesn't ask people why they voted that way, it simply asks them how.
Michael, I look forward to that. 10 o'clock tomorrow.